Hola a todos, buenas noches. Hoy es martes 15 de octubre de 2024. Son las 6:30 de la tarde en Colombia. Yo soy Mike y les doy la bienvenida a otra clase en vivo, una clase de revisión en la cual estaremos revisando los temas que hemos visto durante los videos publicados en el canal la semana pasada. Hi everybody, good evening. Today is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. It's 6:30 p.m. in Colombia. I'm Mike, and I bid you welcome to another review class. We're going to review the things that we have learned on the videos that we have posted the week before. So, first, thanks to each and every one of you, the ones who are live tonight with us attending this live class. Thank you for being here, for taking the time, and also the ones who are watching this later, because this is part of a list of live videos in which you can. Hey, my best friend is here. Serena is in the house. Adventures with Red and Friends. If you like gaming, she's got a few channels in which you can have fun playing games with friends and such. So thank you for being here. Welcome. She's also a member of the channel, and that was my next point. Thanks a lot to all of the members of the channel. Thank you for supporting the channel. I really appreciate that. And tonight we're going to review an interesting subject. It is called dativo de interés, the dative of interest. In fact, today I read a comment. One of our users, visitors, I'm not sure if it was from a subscriber, anyhow, claiming that I was wrong with the dative of interest, and I agreed to disagree because this person politely claimed that the dative of interest was only related to accidental constructions. The week before, we saw what is everything about accidental constructions, and yes, in Spanish we use the dative of interest when it comes to accidental constructions, but that's not the only aspect of the dative of interest. So the video that we posted last week, I explained in full detail what's the dative of interest, why this is so important in Spanish, because in Spanish we use that a lot. We use the dative of interest a lot, so it's a very interesting and important subject to learn. And tonight, I hope you have watched the video, you know what we're going to do. So we're going to pretty much review and practice a little bit about this very interesting structure and form that we use in Spanish every day. So let's start with this little thing that I'm showing here. Those are reflexive pronouns. And we use reflexive pronouns in Spanish to express that the action the subject is performing is being performed on him, herself, itself. So there are some things that in Spanish are reflexive that not necessarily are reflexive in English, meaning verbs. So let's say I shave, right? In English we use myself for reflexive forms, but shave doesn't need the myself. When I say I shave, I'm already implying that it's to myself, right? I shave myself. I shave, and that's it. Or I take a shower. You take a shower, he takes a shower, it doesn't matter. But in Spanish, when we say me afeito, se afeita, that means himself, herself, itself, themselves, yourself, whatever, right? Or me baño. Funny thing, in Spanish, I think it's something that we have here in Latin America. I don't know if it's the same in every country. in which we speak Spanish, but let's say here in Colombia, when I say me baño, it could be literally translated as I take a bath. And in English, when we say I take a bath, it implies the use of a bathtub, right? But in Spanish, when we say I take a bath, we mostly mean I take a shower, right? So when I say me baño, it's like I take a shower or I take a bath, and that's reflexive. So these are just the reflexive pronouns, and I'm gonna leave the reflexive pronouns here for you to read them as we're going through the review, right? Because this is something that we use. So what's the drill tonight? I'm gonna give you sentences in English, right? Sentences that can be used in regular subject verb object structure, that can be said in Spanish as dative of interest, that can be said in Spanish as accidental constructions, dative of interest, and that can be said in Spanish as reflexive sentences, things that we do on ourselves. So the first two, dative of interest and accidental constructions, are dative of interest. The reflexive forms are not dative of interest. But I want to give these examples because this is something that we do a lot in Spanish. And it sounds pretty much the same because in all of the three different structures, we use these reflexive pronouns. There are things that will let us know whether it's a reflexive, a dative, or an accidental form, a construction. And this is what I want to practice with you tonight. So, without further ado, let's start with the first sentence. And it is, whoa, sorry. Give me a second. Whoa. Okay. Thank you. So it says, I ate a whole pizza. I'm adding this for myself, just to give that dative of interest taste, right? Because I can easily delete this and then say I ate a whole pizza, right? So if I say in Spanish I ate a whole pizza, I have the sentence here. Give me a second. I would say comí una pizza entera. Comí una pizza entera, right? Who ate it? Yo, right? Yo comí una pizza entera. So let's start reviewing this. Subject, verb, object. Yo comí una pizza entera. It's correct. It is perfect, is right. But in Spanish, we most likely skip or drop the pronoun, because the conjugation of the verb already implies who ate the pizza. Comí una pizza entera. Okay. So we moved from yo comí una pizza entera to comí una pizza entera. And it's perfectly okay. And this is way more natural. But in Spanish, at least here in Colombia, we say me comí una pizza entera. And here we're using the reflexive pronoun for I, me. Me comí una pizza entera. This sentence, if we were going to be very strict with the meaning of this sentence really means I ate a whole pizza for myself, for my own enjoyment, for my benefit. That's the when you read between the lines or whatever, that's the deep meaning of this sentence. Okay? But here's the thing. In Spanish, we say this a lot. We use these kind of forms whether or not we really want to be interested in conveying that idea of the benefit or whatever. This is the way we talk. So instead of saying yo comí una pizza entera, which is totally perfect and valid, and you can say that if you want, but you're not going to sound natural in Spanish, or at least here in Colombia, we say me comí una pizza entera, and it sounds perfectly natural, fluent, native, and whatever you want. And it's perfect and it's okay. And how do I know that this is a dative of interest. It's a dative of interest because this sentence, it implies the benefit, my own benefit, and if I remove the reflexive pronoun, the sentence remains okay. The meaning doesn't change or is not destroyed, to say something. If I say in Spanish, comí una pizza entera, it's totally understandable. So that's how we know we're facing a dative of interest. Because if we remove the reflexive pronoun, the sentence won't lose its meaning. So that's how we speak in Spanish, at least here in Colombia. Now, let's try with another sentence. We're gonna try with different sentences tonight, and in different situations. So let's check. I made a coffee. I made a coffee. Right? Once again, let's say that I made a coffee for myself. I made me a cup of coffee. I don't know if that's correct, but anyhow, I made a cup of coffee for myself. So I wanted to drink a cup of coffee, so I said I made a coffee, right? I made a coffee for myself. So we would have this sentence, right? I made a coffee for myself. So in Spanish, let's delete this. Whoops, sorry. Are we okay here? Yeah. In Spanish, I can say, preparé un café para mí. This, again, can be said as yo preparé un café para mí. This sentence, subject, verb, object structure. Subject, yo, verb, preparé, object, un café. It's totally okay. Grammatically correct. If you say yo preparé un café para mí, it's perfectly understandable. Now, remember, preparé already implies it's I. So I just say preparé un café para mí, which sounds more natural. Preparé un café para mí. And you can say that. It's totally perfect. Now, I can change this for me preparé un café. Me preparé un café. And that already says I made a coffee for myself. Me preparé un café. Now, you can say, oh, this is a reflexive structure. Well, could be, but what if we remove me? Preparé un café. The thing that changes here is that the sentence preparé un café, it's totally perfect, but we lack of the meaning of for whom did I make the coffee. So in this case, me preparé. Whoops, sorry. Sorry. Oh, sorry for that. I that was a meme that I sent to my wife, who's studying nail polishing these days, and I found that funny. It was like, oh, this is a funny meme. So, me preparé un café. Me preparé un café. Me preparé un café. Right? So this is the sentence. How we say that. If you can say this, me preparé un café, it's way more natural. So let's move to another sentence here. We forgot the movie tickets. We forgot the movie tickets. Now, here, we forgot the movie tickets. Something that happened, right? So we would say in Spanish, oops, sorry. In Spanish, we would say, olvidamos las entradas de cine. Once again, subject, verb, object, we would say, nosotros olvidamos las entradas del cine. Nosotros olvidamos las entradas del cine. But once again, we already understand that it's us because of the verb conjugation. So we say, olvidamos las entradas del cine. Was something that we made on purpose or something that was unintentional? And here's an insider some inside information from native speakers. At least here in Colombia, I don't know if it's something that happens a lot with Latin American or Spanish speaking people, but now at least here in Colombia, we have we have the tendency to avoid being responsible for things, being accountable for things. So we always say, oh no, it wasn't my fault, I'm not to blame here. So we use the dative of interest in a very interesting form that we already studied, that is called the accidental construction. So let's say, I can say, nos olvidamos las entradas del cine. Nos olvidamos de las entradas del cine would be better, right? And this could be understandable, but it doesn't sound natural. And this would be like the dative of interest, just the dative of interest. Because if we remove the nos form, it's pretty much the same. Olvidamos las entradas del cine. The sentence doesn't lose any meaning. But because we want to mean that it was something that we did it wasn't intentional, it was unintentional, we use the accidental construction. We start with se, nos, and remember the verb changes to the third person in the number of the object. Entradas is plural, so we use olvidaron. Se nos olvidaron las entradas del cine. And this would be an accidental construction using the dative of interest, which would be this form, se nos olvidaron. You see? And we move from olvidamos las entradas del cine, we move from here to here. Both are perfectly correct, understandable, and natural. But one, if we want to convey the idea that it was not our fault, we better go, in Spanish, we better go with the accidental construction. And second, most likely, here we're going to say this because we don't want to be held responsible or accountable for the fact that we just forgot the movie tickets. Okay? Let's move to another one. You ran out of sugar. Same thing. Same thing. You ran out of sugar. This is very interesting because this could be said in Spanish in two ways. Gastaste el azúcar or acabaste con el azúcar. In this sentence, subject, verb, object means that, oh, it was your fault, right? Well, you're responsible for doing that. But I say, really? I say, you know something? I'm going to say, me gasté el azúcar. Right? Me gasté el azúcar. Question, what happens if you remove me? Gasté el azúcar. It's the same. So this is a dative of interest. That is a dative of interest. Because it's the same information whether you have the reflexive form or not. Me gasté el azúcar. Me gasté el azúcar. And this, you use me gasté el azúcar, implying that you are being affected directly by the action itself. Remember, it can be either benefit or being affected in a negative way. But wait, I can even go a step further here with the accidental construction. And I can say, well, I can say, te gastaste, you run, because it's you, te gastaste. Te gastaste el azúcar. You run, because it's you, right? Tú te gastaste el azúcar. But I can go one step further with and I say, you know something? It wasn't my fault. Then I can use, I cannot use gastar, but I have to use acabar. The thing that I wrote first, remember? And here, if I want to convey it was an action, se, remember. You, se te. It's one thing, it's el azúcar, right? It's singular, azúcar. So the verb has to be conjugated third form singular. Se te acabó el azúcar. And we have gastaste el azúcar. Te gastaste el azúcar, se te acabó el azúcar. We have three different ways of saying the same thing. And we have subtle differences in between these sentences. Now, when we use this, if I want to say you ran out of sugar and it was not your fault, I say se te acabó el azúcar. And if I want to be like, hey, I want to like, hey, what was wrong with you? Gastaste el azúcar. I can say that. Hey, gastaste el azúcar. I'm mad at you because of that. Interesting, right? Now let's check this one. We bought a house. Once again, we can say, let's say we bought a house for our own benefit. We don't need to say this in English, right? We don't need to say this. But let's say that we just bought a house and we want to say that in Spanish. So in Spanish we say compramos una casa. Once again, the subject is not needed, not really needed. Nosotros compramos una casa. Perfect. It's okay. We most likely say compramos una casa because the verb conjugation, blah, blah, blah. You already know that. Compramos una casa. Is this an accident? No. So we cannot use the accidental construction. It doesn't have it doesn't make any sense using the accidental construction because this didn't happen by accident. Whoop. No. We did that for ourselves. Is this reflexive? Not really. We just bought it for ourselves. So we can use nos compramos una casa, or we can just say compramos una casa. Any of those. Depending on what we want to convey with this sentence. Compramos una casa, nos compramos. And we're saying exactly the same. This is Spanish, the way we talk. And of course, we wouldn't understand these subtleties unless we don't know about them. It's like, oh, when do we use this? Why do we say this like this? And why do we use the same pronouns and such and such? Watch my videos. And by the way, like the videos. That's a good way to support. They sit in the first row. They sit in the first row. So, se sientan en la primera fila. Now, I can say ellos or ellas toman asiento. To sit is tomar asiento in Spanish. Ellos toman asiento en la primera fila. And it's totally understandable. Now, we don't say this a lot. This would be kind of formal. But we can say it, and it's valid. And if you say this, you will be understood. Most likely we say se sientan, because here, what happens if we remove this? Sientan en la primera fila. It loses meaning. Sientan en la primera fila, ¿qué? Sientan, ¿qué? ¿Cómo? I don't know. So here, the se means that they do themselves the action. So this is a reflexive sentence. Se sientan en la primera fila. I can either say in a subject verb object structure, regularly saying ellos toman asiento en la primera fila, or I can say se sientan en la primera fila, being this more natural. But again, you can say both. No problem whatsoever, whether you want to mean one thing or another. Hey, I hate cars. Thank you for being here tonight. I just skipped a moment the whiteboard to check if there was any questions or whatever comments here in the chat window. So let's go back to our things. Now, another one. My pants ripped. It's an accident, right? So what do we do? What structure do we use? My pants ripped. So we're going to use an accidental construction. Well, let's check. Se me rompió el pantalón. Pants, in Spanish, I can say pantalón or pantalones. Generally, I say pantalón. Se me rompió el pantalón. I could say rompí el pantalón. I could say this. This is subject, verb, object structure. Yo rompí el pantalón. But here, my pants ripped really say that it wasn't me the one who did that. So I already know it's an accident. So I go with the accidental construction. And accidental construction starts with se, then the reflexive pronoun corresponding to the subject, I, me. It's well, in Spanish, pantalón is singular. I could say se me rompieron los pantalones. It's the same. I can say both. Se me rompieron los pantalones. Se me rompió. Interesting, right? Se me rompió el pantalón. Freaking Spanish. Okay. And both are correct. Both are correct. Especially this because it's singular. Se me rompieron los pantalones could be either a pair of jeans or several pairs of jeans. Different pants. See? It's an accident. I already know, so I go with the accidental construction because it's an accident. I don't go with subject verb object unless I want to mean it was not an accident. Let's go with he, she, you, as usted dropped the glass. Is that an accident? Of course, unless you did that on purpose. So we go with se le cayó el vaso. Se le cayó el vaso. Se le cayó el vaso. Se, then the reflexive pronoun for he, she, or you, usted, which is le. Cayó because vaso is singular, third person. But here's the thing. How about you did that on purpose? Then él, ella, usted. I want to convey the same information in Spanish, but I can use the verb caer. Soltó. Soltó el vaso. Soltó. Or dejó caer. Sometimes you could say tiró, but tiró can also mean threw. Dejó caer, soltó el vaso. See how I can say this meaning that you were responsible and meaning you were not responsible. Two different ways. But here we certainly use the accidental construction. Okay, let's move to I watched the entire series in one afternoon for myself, for my own enjoyment. Dative of interest, right? Not an accident. Dative of interest. Not an accidental construction, which is also dative of interest, but accidental. So, vi toda la serie en una tarde. This would be like subject, verb, object. Vi toda la serie. Yo vi toda la serie. But remember, we want to convey that sense of, oh, this is for my own enjoyment. Who's the subject? I. So what do I have to add at first? Me vi toda la serie en una tarde. As you can see, both have a meaning, and most likely here we would say this one. Most likely. Me vi toda la serie en una tarde. You see how we move from subject, verb, object to a different construction just to sound more natural, to add subtleties to the meanings. I took a walk around the park. Again, was this an accident? No. Did I did this on myself? No. So it's not a reflexive, it's not an accident. So I can use either subject, verb, object, or the dative of interest. And we would have, yo di una vuelta por el parque. subject, verb, object. Yo di una vuelta. Totally understandable. Or if I want to sound more natural, me di una vuelta por el parque. For my own enjoyment, for my own amusement, for my own benefit. I needed to relax, so I took a walk around the park. Me di una vuelta por el parque. Why did I do? Well, just add the dative of interest. And that's going to be. And this is something that you're going to hear a lot. So, why did he say that? You wash your hands before eating. You're washing your hands. You don't say you wash your hands yourself. It's already implied. You don't say you wash your own hands. But in Spanish, it is a reflexive. Did this happen by accident? No. Could say that it's for your own benefit, but it's also something you perform on yourself. So you go with the reflexive form. And how do you know it's a reflexive form? Te lavas las manos antes de comer. If you remove te, lavas las manos antes de comer, but whose hands? I don't know. Las manos de quién? So the hands, this is a reflexive form because without the reflexive pronoun, it loses the meaning. It sounds like something's missing here. Once we relax after a long day. Now, is this an accident? No. Does this happen by accident? No. We relax. You do that for your own amusement? Oh well, yes. Do you do that on yourself, to yourself? Well, yes. So let's figure out. Nos relajamos después de un largo día. Can we remove this? And it's the same. Relajamos después de un largo día. No. So this is a reflexive form in which we have to use nos. Otherwise, it lacks of meaning. So it's not it's not really a dative of interest. It's a reflexive form. I dropped my phone. Was that an accident? Well, most likely. Well, it could be, or I just could be. So, did I do that for my own amusement? Well, I don't think so. So I say se me cayó el teléfono. Se, I, me, teléfono, one thing singular, third person, cayó el teléfono. Or once again, I can say solté, dejé caer, maybe tiré el teléfono. Differences here, I'm responsible for that. Here, it was not my fault. Both can be translated as I dropped the phone. It depends on whatever happened or whatever is what I mean by this. Interesting, right? You dropped your backpack on the way. Again, exactly the same. This was an accident. Se te cayó la mochila. Or tiraste, dejaste caer, soltaste la mochila en el camino. Differences between one and another. This one is on purpose. You're held accountable for this, and it was your fault. Here, it's not your fault, and both mean the same. I mean, are the same in English, but in Spanish, I can use 4 different sentences. 1, 2, 3, meaning I was held responsible, and 4, it was not my fault. I think I have, let me see. I have a couple more. I get up at 7 in the morning. For my own amusement? Well, not really, or maybe, I don't know. Let's see. It's something that you do on yourself. In Spanish, it works like that. Yo me despierto. Hey, wake up. It's an accident? No. So this most likely is a reflexive sentence. And how do we know? To make sure it's a reflexive sentence, just delete me. Levanto a las 7 de la mañana. ¿Levanto qué? I don't know. So yes, if I need the reflexive pronoun, it is a reflexive sentence. Me levanto a las 7 de la mañana. And I get up at 7 in the morning. In English, it's not reflexive because I'm not using myself. In Spanish, it is. Once again, you shower every day. You shower every day. It's an accident? Well, I hope not. Te duchas todos los días. Remove this. Duchas todos los días. Make sense? No. So it is reflexive. Once again, I can, whoops, sorry. I can, this kind of sentence, I can say, tomas una ducha todos los días. And this is not reflexive. This is subject, verb, object. And I could say, te tomas una ducha todos los días. It sounds a little weird. Good pass. It sounds a little weird. So here is where you start thinking about not overusing the dative of interest. I go to bed late on weekends. Is that an accident? Not quite. For your own amusement, maybe. Let's see. Me acuesto tarde todos los fines de semana. Let's remove this. Acuesto tarde los fines de semana. It doesn't make any sense. So I need to leave the reflexive and saying that this is a reflexive form. And once again, I can say, voy a la cama tarde los fines de semana. Yo voy. This is subject, verb, object. This is not reflexive and means the same. In fact, this is a direct translation of this. And this is the way we say it. And yes, I can say, me voy a la cama for my own benefit or amusement. And it sounds okay. So, this is how we use the dative of interest in Spanish. This is how we talk. What's the deal now? The deal now is, se me dañaron los pantalones. Yep. Se me dañaron los pantalones. Se me dañó el pantalón. It can be. Or se me dañaron los pantalones. So, what's the deal here? Learning a language is not impossible. It might be difficult, but it's not impossible because our brains are wired to do so. Our brains are wired to learn a language. So, we're using education, and we have to use exposure in order to acquire the language. Acquisition, education. We need to mix both. So here I'm explaining the facts, the theory. So you have the education. Now start getting the exposure, proper exposure to language. So read as much as you can and try to get used to this. Identify this. Hey, see, this is how it works. Then raise the bar a couple notches. Start listening. Podcasts, interviews, news, TED Talks, videos, documentaries, serious movies. And once again, get used to this. Oh yeah. Oh, now it makes sense. Oh, of course. It makes sense. And of course, find a language exchange partner to talk with and to practice with. Most likely, a language exchange partner, if it's a native speaker, most likely is not going to know anything about theory because we don't know theory. If I ask you guys about subjunctive mood, the typical question, I would say not all of you could really explain in a very detailed way what the subjunctive mood is. Or the saxon genitive. Oh yeah, I use it. I know how to use it, but I don't really know how to explain that to you. Same is gonna happen. But at least they're gonna say, hey, that's not the way you say that. Let's say we're talking and I say, she don't go. And you say, well, it's she doesn't. Or if we're talking and you say, el pantalón está rompido, I'm gonna say, woo, 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 woo. It's not rompido, it's roto. Why? Well, I don't know, but it's roto. Okay, thank you. So that interaction is gonna help a little bit. So please, you really want to learn a language, you need exposure. There is no other way. Theory is useful. Grammar is useful. These explanations are useful, but you need exposure to the language. So hopefully you're gonna do that. So you're gonna start doing this. If you have issues or questions, check this video. Well, not this video, but the ones in which I explain everything. And if you have questions, if you still have questions, don't be shy. Leave a comment. I'll reply as soon as possible. If you like my videos, please, you know what to do. That helps a lot. It helps a lot. It doesn't cost anything, but it helps a lot. Share with your friends, group, social media, and if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. Click the bell button in order to get notifications. I'm posting videos on a weekly basis, and we're going live pretty much every Tuesday around 6:30 Colombian time. And what we do during these live classes is just to quickly review whatever we have learned in the past videos the week before. So I hope this is going to be helpful. All of the explanations that I do are in English because with my language limitations, at least I want you to fully understand how it works, the mechanics of the concepts, the grammar. Then whenever we want or whenever you can, we can speak in Spanish all you want. Remember, I do have another channel. It's called Inglés Fácil con Mike. It's a channel in which I teach English to Spanish speakers. And same thing over there, I go full in Spanish, explaining things related to the language. So if you want to practice a little bit, you can go there as well. And I have a podcast here, so I'm trying to bring as many resources, useful learning resources as I can. So I hope you're enjoying and taking a benefit of this, from this. So looking forward to seeing you in the future videos. Thank you for being here. Serena, I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Remember, if you're a gamer, if you're into gaming, my good friend Serena, she's got Adventures with Random Friends. Go check her channel, like, subscribe, and have a hell of a time with them. Gracias a todos por haber estado aquí esta noche. Un abrazo para todos y nos vemos en una próxima clase. Bye bye.